So today's project will be a little different because we're going to do some decorative work on the surface as part of the tutorial to learn about how this responds to paint. And I like to stitch and then paint. And so I've got a piece here that is 6 by 10, and then I've got a piece that is a little bit longer than the 6 inches twice. And I'm going to end up installing my zipper so that it goes like this. And I've pre-prepared this. I'll show how to do this, but you cut off the stop and you use one side of the tape, and then the zipper zips over. And so we're going to do that as part of this. But our main thing is that we're going to paint this, and we're going to use, instead of heat fixing, because I think you could do it, but I'm thinking we've done that before where we heat fix. And with this I'm going to use some Versatex Fixer that you put in, and then it replaces heat fixing. And you just need to wait 5 days before you expose it to moisture. I've got my paint hoodie on. And I did kind of plan a little design. It's going to go this way with the zipper across the top. And this is going to extend it and essentially become a little zipper tab. And so I want my design to kind of be on the edges, but I do want it to come across the center, even though that will be one end of this little cosmetic case. So I've never free motion quilted this before, so I think I'll do a little test on this selvage here. Make sure that this is going to even work. For all we know, I'm going to say don't free motion quilt it. And this edge is supposed to have, I'm not going to turn, so I don't have that kind of selvage, but it will overlap a little. So, and then the top edge is going to just go on the zipper. So I really don't want to do this sloppy, because I'm only going to really be turning this bottom edge will get turned. I think I'm going to do a couple of stripes down here so that I can paint that stripe, and then I'm just going to do my little peacocks that I like to do. And then I'm going to come over and repeat the same thing and try to have them face all the same direction, and then do something in the center. So I just kind of ended with tiny little stitches. There's the back, which I feel is acceptable. It's not perfect tension, but it's not totally incompetent. And I don't think anything will catch on it, which is a major issue for me. And so this is what I have to paint. So I'm using this Versatex Fixer, and there's a newer one that's more concentrated, but and I'll put the name of that below. But this one, you want to shoot for between 1 to 3% of this fixer for however much paint you have. And the idea is that you would mix it into a whole container, and then it's good for 8 to 12 hours, and then you have to, it doesn't spoil the paint, but you have to remix in there for the next time. And I'm not gonna do that. What I'm gonna do is put a few drops in my paint and hope for the best. So I figure as long as I get 1 drop for every 33 to 100 drops worth of paint, I'll be in the right range for the proper mixture. And I'm trying to do a little bit of green that's metallic with this halo blue gold, and then with my ink that's navy blue, I'm mixing in enough of the green, the green color that's called halo blue gold, to make that sort of metallic looking. And as I'm working, I just thin with water as I go and try to keep the paint so that it flows on nicely, and so that I like the way that it looks on the cork. And I just pay attention and see how it's shaping up and decide what to do as I go along. And notably, at some points there aren't enough stitching lines to really paint a complete design without the painting getting either really big or running into itself in the wrong way. And so I often paint on invisible lines as I'm going. I do that a lot with this third color, which I just decided at the last minute to add. I hadn't planned on it. When I make this stuff, I've described the process before. I imagined the little pouch I was going to make, and I kind of saw the surface design that I was going to do in my head, and then I just start trying to work towards that. And so I thought that it would look the way that I imagined it if I did these peacocks and painted them somehow. And so I stitched them and then painted them like this. But as I was going along, I really thought it needed a third color, and so at the last minute I add that. And most of the lines I painted on for that were not actually in the stitching. So I'm using a heavy-duty nylon coil zipper with a nice big purse pull. And to prepare it for this, the first thing I'm going to do is cut off this bottom stop. And then I'm going to pull off the zipper head. So now I have one side and I have my zipper pull. If you have it this far apart, you need to really get one side on first. Like you can do this, you can get one side on and then do this. And that's a little easier to grab. You just need to plan your offset and what's going to work for you. So I'm going to do this one with the zipper head off. And without my head on, I have to pay attention to which is the front, which is the back of my zipper. This is the front with the raised part here. It more is a little bit smoother on the back. So I'm going to put this in here. And then I'm going to go ahead and use this basting tape again, as long as I have it sitting right here. Just going to put this on here. Both lines of stitching are on the zipper. See how both lines of stitching are on the zipper? The best way that I found to do this is if you match these up how you want them. And then you cut one side shorter, like quite a bit, like that. Okay, see those are that close, and I feel like that's a little far off. I want to match them up a little better. If I tried 10 times and this was the best I could do, I would live with it, but I think I can do a little better. So move down just a little. Try to hold both these. There we go. That's the good one. So it's a little bit fumble fingered, and if you had a friend to hold one zipper tape while you manipulated the rest. But this lines up pretty good. So that's the easiest way I've found, where you can kind of hold one and kind of get the other. When they're the same size, it's a little harder to get around and hold them both. So this is actually going to serve as like a zipper tab. I'm going to take this. Now, this bag's a little bit hard to work with because of the size. If this were wider across here, this would spread out a lot better and it would be easier to work with. And so you could always do that. Then I'm just going to kind of mark this with chalk the best that I can, just so that I have a little reference. And then I'm going to lay this on here and stick it on, and I'm just going to look at this and try to just cover my chalk. But so this is one of those things that if you're careful, you can get through this. And so I'm just going to stitch this. Now, I dried my painting in front of the fire. In the winter I tend to do that, and in the summer I put it in a sunny window. So I'm set up here. It's kind of awkward because I have my little machine on my big machine, but I wanted to show you that with a normal needle down function and free arm, that sewing this actually is no big deal. It's a little harder on a flatbed. So this is what it looks like, and inside here we've got, I'm just going to trim that off. And so that's how that becomes like a zipper extension right there. But so here's what I have here, and all I'm going to do is stitch down here and then stitch across there. I'm going to use my regular foot. I'm going to stitch them both twice. I will just cut this off sort of straight, and then sew here. And I am going to go ahead and clip that corner a little. I'm going to clip this corner a little, and I'm going to clip this one a little. But don't cut your stitching. You really got to cram it. So if I do box these, just a tiny bit, it would end up like this. Or I could turn those out. I like it a little boxed, and so I'm going to do that. So, tiny little thing to box, but I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do very much. I'm actually going to attempt to do a very small amount. I'm going to take this one, and I'm just going to sew across here. And then I'm going to take this one, and it's only got the seam on one side because it's folded. And then one little thing I didn't like as much as I'd like to was this up here tended to stick up in a point. And so all I'm going to do, if you can see, is I'm just going to sew this a tiny little bit like that. So, and I don't know how much I mentioned it in the earlier video, but the nice thing about this stuff is it does have kind of a hand-like leather. So I end up rounding this corner on the inside about as much as I can to try to get this to where I don't mind the shape of it. And that, of course, is all a matter of taste. And this is essentially a prototype